One of the most interesting things about Breath of the Wild is how the story plays out in comparison to other Zelda games, usually in the middle of the quest. An unexpected turn of events leads to the villain getting the upper hand. For example, in Ocarina of Time you open the Door of Time to get the Master Sword, only to be sealed in the Sacred Realm for 7 years and find out that Ganondorf was using you to obtain the Triforce. In Twilight Princess, you collect the pieces of the fused shadow until Zant ambushes you, as well as turn Link into a wolf permanently. But in Breath of the Wild, the game begins after the Great Calamity, a catastrophic event resulting in the deaths of the champions as well as Link being placed in the shrine to recover. All because Ganon had woken up and taken control of both the Divine Beasts and Guardians. Talk about really good timing too. I mean, all of the champions along with Link and the princess happened to be somewhere else entirely, with no one at the castle. This revenge plot worked smoothly and the Hylians never stood a chance. It almost worked too smoothly. And that brings up the question, did Ganon plan exactly when he would return? And why did he do it at that moment? The first and most common answer is that it was because the absence of all key players made taking over the castle and its town easier. And yeah, I also believe that. But there might be a more in-depth explanation within the memory itself. But first we need to figure out, why wait at all if he could return sooner? Surely there are other occasions when the pilots are not at their respective Divine Beasts. Returning at night when everyone is sleeping would have given Ganon plenty of time to take over the Divine Beasts and wipe out the castle. The answer to that is that he had no threats, because there was no one alive who could stop him. It becomes clear in the game that the one person who had the power to defeat him was a princess with the blood of the goddess. This isn't specifically referring to Zelda, but anyone connected to the bloodline, including her mother. But as we later find out, before she was able to teach Zelda of how to unlock her power, she had unexpectedly passed away. It's not known why, but there's a good chance that the Yiga had something to do with it. This would also put Ganon in the best possible position. Without her mother, Zelda wouldn't have a mentor to teach her about the power sealed within her. There was no one in the kingdom that could oppose him. So why didn't he take advantage of that moment and return then and there? I hear you. It's a valid point. Well, what if he was still weak? Maybe he could have returned at that moment, but he wouldn't have had the strength to destroy the kingdom. And since Zelda was struggling to find the answer to unlocking her power, he would have time to regain his power. But there's no proof of that. Well, let's look at how Ganon executed his plan in the memories. What's interesting is that most of the destruction doesn't come from Calamity Ganon himself, but the technology he takes over. Yes, Ganon was the one who infected the Divine Beasts and Guardians with the malice, but that means that all damage done to the kingdom was done through an external force. Now let's look at all the memories where Ganon is seen. There's this shot where he infects the technology while staying within the vicinity of the castle. Following these events, he's never seen in the next two memories as it focuses on Link and Zelda's movement. But after Zelda put the Master Sword in the pedestal, she heads back to Hyrule Castle to confront Ganon. With this chronological order of events, we can safely come to one conclusion. Ganon can't leave the castle. Why? Going further, in a previous video I mentioned a passage in Masterworks where it talks about how threatened Ganon felt of Link. Though the role that the champion Link played was not known to many, the great number of guardians that Calamity Ganon sent in pursuit of the chosen hero shows just how much of a threat Calamity Ganon felt him to be. It's possible that Ganon could have left the castle, but perhaps he kept his distance because he knew he didn't stand a chance against Link. I did say that no one could oppose him before, but that is referring to how no one could seal him away. Therefore, he came up with another plan. Use the Guardians to pursue and dispose of him along with the princess. Another possible hint at Ganon not being at his full strength comes from the tapestry. His form here clearly looks more complete compared to the boar head seen in the game. And when you look up Calamity Ganon's entry in the compendium, the following says, hibernating within a cocoon. It attempted to regenerate a physical form after Link awoke, but was forced to confront him in an incomplete state. It's clear that Ganon couldn't even touch Link in his current spectral form. But this all comes back around to the biggest question. Why did he wake up if he wasn't ready? Even if the champions were away from their Divine Beasts, there would have been other opportunities to catch him off guard later, but instead the events played out as follows.
But I was thinking about what I do when I'm healing. You know, what usually goes through my mind. It helps when I think about...
Huh. Isn't that comedic timing? He returned just as she was about to finish her sentence. Wait a minute. Is this why Ganon returned? Zelda came back from the Spring of Wisdom with no success in unlocking her power. Following this, the champions try to cheer her up, and Urbosa says,
"Anything could finally spark the power to seal Ganon away. We just have to keep looking for that thing."
And then right after, Mipha begins speaking to Zelda about her power. It's not necessarily words of encouragement, and more so her giving the princess advice on trying to unlock her power. Remember, the very reason she went to Mount Lanayru was to fulfill her duty as the Princess of Hyrule, to seal Ganon once he returned. In my very first Z-Link theory, I had discussed Mipha's dialogue in this memory. The conclusion was that she was most likely going to say, "It helps me when I think about the person I deeply care about or love." This would make complete sense because Mipha was confirmed to be in love with Link. She mentions that whatever advice she was going to give had to do with what she thought about when she was healing. If it is something that would embarrass her, then it probably has to do with her feelings for Link. Fast forward to the 17th memory, where Link and Zelda are being pursued by guardians. Right before one fires at the hero, the princess jumps in front of him in a last-ditch effort to protect him. It's at this moment where her power is finally unlocked and she can now fulfill her duty. From these events, it's clear that the key to activating her power had to do with protecting the person she grew to love, which happens to be the piece of advice that Mipha was most likely going to say before she was cut off by Ganon. Remember Kass's final song he shares with Link? The lyrics go as follows. "Her appointed knight gives his life, shields her figure, and pays the price. The princess's love for her fallen knight awakens her power. And within the castle, the Calamity is forced to cower." Calamity Ganon's plan was to take as much time as possible to regain his strength, a scheme that was only feasible as long as no one could stand in his way. With the mother dead and the daughter struggling with unlocking her power, all he had to do was wait. Wait until the perfect opportunity to destroy the kingdom in one fell swoop. He had the guardians and divine beasts, but as long as he was vulnerable, victory would not be guaranteed. That meant that no one could be in his way. So when a new threat arose, Mipha's advice to Zelda, that she should think about the one she loves. Something had to be done. He returned in order to prevent that news reaching the princess, because if it did, Zelda would finally activate the power inside of her. Calamity Ganon would have a threat. But the funny thing is, by executing his plan earlier than expected, Zelda and Link were able to retreat from the castle. The Guardians would catch up to them, but by seeing Link in danger, her love for him would result in the princess protecting her knight and unlocking her power. In an ironic twist of events, Zelda would have found the truth whether he interrupted Mipha or not. But, as usual, this is just a theory. Thank you for watching today's Breath of the Wild theory. I really enjoyed researching this one because it felt like a very logical answer to why Calamity Ganon did what he did. But I'll go ahead and ask you guys, what was Mipha going to say to Zelda? I'm interested in hearing your thoughts, so feel free to post them down below. Did you guys know that I have a Twitter? Shocking, I know. I don't advertise it much, but I do regularly post there, so a link will be in the description. Thanks to my current patrons, as your donations will help to make more videos such as this. If you want to support the channel, then check the description for a link where you can donate $1 a month, though never feel obligated to do so. I've been NintendoBlackCrisis, and expect a lot more Zelda videos for the future. Okay, I didn't know where to put this part, but after editing this episode, I made some more discoveries. Some minor, but others that legitimately blew my mind. First of all, let's go back to Kass's song. The last lyrics talked about went as followed. Within the castle, the Calamity is forced to cower. This confirms that at this moment, Ganon was still at the castle. Therefore, it further solidifies the theory that he can't leave. Well, more like he won't leave. The next point I want to bring up is that by waking up early, Ganon might have actually won. I talked about how he would be screwed either way, considering the fact that by sending guardians after the princess and Link would result in Zelda awakening her power. This of course would be because she saw him in danger, but this still could have worked for Ganon. If he were to somehow separate the two, it would be possible to kill Link without Zelda being nearby. Without knowing that he was in danger, her power would have never been activated. And believe it or not, that was going to be the outcome. Listen to what Urbosa says.
Come, we should go. We need to get you someplace safe.
But then Zelda refuses and insists that she can be of some use to them.
No, I'm not a child anymore. I may not be much use on the battlefield, but there must be something I can do to help.
This is what saved Hyrule. If Zelda did go and hide, Link would have been killed by the Guardians and the kingdom would have been at Calamity Ganon's mercy. But because Zelda followed her own instincts, she, without knowing it, saved Hyrule. Now it's time to get to the part that really shocked me. Go back to the section where Urbosa mentions that anything could spark her power and they just have to find that thing. Pay close attention to Mipha.
We just have to keep looking for that thing.
Did you hear it? She let out a gasp, almost as if she knew what that thing was. Now pay attention to the very next shot. It cuts right to Link. It's not a coincidence that right after Urbosa says they need to find that thing, the next shot shows exactly what that thing Zelda needs is. This is important because of two reasons. First of all, it shows how lots of thought went into the composition of these memories. This is a way the game foreshadows its events. But the second and most important thing is Mipha. Look at the angle of the shot. It's as if we are seeing it from Mipha's point of view. That's because we are. Mipha's gasp is her realizing what the answer is to Zelda's problem, and then as a confirmation she turns to look at the person needed for Zelda's power. And the next shot confirms this, as it reveals that the one she was looking at was the hero himself. Right after, Mipha proceeds to give Zelda the answer until she is deliberately cut off by Ganon. With all of this new information, I am 100% sure that the Zora champion was about to say that the solution was by Zelda the whole time. Mind blown. Anyways, that's enough from me. I legitimately got excited when I found this out. It just proves that you can discover new things, as long as you know what you're looking for. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.